President Cyrill Ramaphosa says the country needs to expand vocational education and training systems. This will be through the implementation of the approved curriculum of the three-stream model to produce more skills and combat joblessness amongst young people. As we celebrate Youth Month, we look at ways to unpack and unlock employment opportunities for young people. CEO of Data Innovations, Ayanda Mtanyana, joins us to chat in just a moment. Joins us now, pardon me. Thank you so much for your time, Ayanda. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika. I mean, in just a moment, in the next few days, June 16 will be observed. And I suppose the big question will always factor around the opportunities that are out there, jobs, because of the high unemployment rate. What's your take on some of the initiatives that perhaps should come out of June 16 as we reflect and observe it this year?
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. Yes, it is indeed a critical time of reflection on the journey that we've been on as a nation to, really overcome the poverty that is our legacy, given our history as a country. But over, the years, what has really transpired is that even, when we look at our education system in preparing young people for the world of work, the world of entrepreneurship, is that we haven't been doing a great job, and therefore there is a need, in line with what the president has been saying, around how do we ensure that when young people are being developed by our institutions of learning, they actually have got opportunities ready for them on the other side, to give them in-service training to actually enable them to be absorbed by the market, because they've been equipped and they're ready to participate in the economy as employees, but also and how we then also setting up young people for ventures that they may pursue, both in terms of entrepreneurship, starting up businesses, running proven models, because part of really, what should be, absorbing a lot of young people is our small and medium and enterprise and micro enterprise space, which to date has not really yielded much, and therefore there's a need around how do we equip and enable young people so that they themselves can start some of these ventures and opportunities, but also they can also participate in solving some of the social issues. And I think that's where, for me, another critical opportunity exists, is around how are we, as young people, thinking about addressing the fundamental issues that are putting us where we are, whether it's inequality, whether it's the unemployment issue, it's the poverty. It's like, what are some of the things that we are doing to address that, as opposed to thinking about jobs and opportunities in spaces that are not fundamentally addressing some of those issues.
Yeah, you speak about ventures and opportunities and jobs in the space. How can data then be used to explore and perhaps unlock employment opportunities for young people?
Yeah, so I think, in line with the last point that I just mentioned, is that, so if you look at the stats that came and colleagues, already spoke at large around why we are when it comes to the literacy situation in the country. So firstly, we know that, about, 8 out of 10 children could not read for meaning when they were assessed in grade 4 in any language. And that in itself leads to certain backlogs that lead to young people not being able to exit schooling equipped to, access opportunities, etc. But we also know that part of the root for that is the fact that our early learning and our spaces where we are developing and caring for children before they even go to school are not actually adequately preparing children so that they are school ready, so that when they get to school and they are learning to read, they can actually do so in such a way that they're not doing it from a place of deficit. So a big opportunity is really around how, as an example, how can young people be involved in the space of early childhood development in order for young people to address some of the issues that have constrained them in accessing some of the opportunities that they could potentially access in the context of our markets. And really, data then does allow us to even justify certain investments that, instead of which, goes a long way, a basic income grant that could be, a thing unto perpetuity for the country. How could we be investing in young people being involved in contributing to early childhood development, preparing children for school, running, early childhood development centers and programs that are actually, preparing young people. So as an example, so with that example, what I'm trying to convey is that with data, we're able to pick up why are we where we are as a country in terms of some of the results that we're seeing around unemployment, around access to opportunities, and then how can we then use the same young people, because we as young people are the ones that are affected by these issues. We're the ones that are sitting at corners, not being able to access employment, not being able to be trained in programs that develop us and make us market ready. So how can we be involved in solving some of those issues, and how could we be paid as young people whilst we're solving those issues, because then that begins to give us access to the market and we can participate. And so data allows us to even motivate for those investments, and when those investments are made, we can also use data to make sure that they are yielding the intended outcomes.
But how accessible are the opportunities, Ayanda? Because, you know, there are issues and perhaps some barriers when it comes to access and connectivity. You know, so access in itself also could be a challenge as one tries to gain access into the industry.
Certainly, and I think part of it, which is what we also have to realize in line with that, and that's where also evidence and data helps us, is to realize that firstly, young people do not even have the resources to identify these opportunities, to actually be able to go and apply and show up for interviews in some of those opportunities, and be able to actually pursue them. And therefore, part of how we then think about how we solve the problem is what are some of the things that we can do that can actually begin to increase that access to young people. Once again, it goes back to data. Where can we find young people? What do young people in the various communities have access to? And which is also just in line with what, you know, some of the initiatives that the president even spoke about last year around how can we make sure that young people have got access to employment within kilometers of where they stay. And part of it is like, how can we then think about communicating opportunities that are available within the spaces that they're in. So, for instance, I'm just going to use that practical example. I like the examples around early child development. Isn't that in every community there's a child? In every community, those children need to be cared for, because the parents need to go and work elsewhere, those that have opportunities to work. And it's about how can we then begin to create and clarify those opportunities and allow young people to participate in that. And we've also seen the case examples as well in basic schooling, where young people were absorbed to support schooling for a period. And it's like, how do we get young people to be involved in programs within their communities and really to be able to communicate to them and have those opportunities accessible to them? Is about identifying how are young people engaging and accessing and sitting when they're not necessarily employed.
And Ayanda, before we let you go, perhaps talk to us about some of the tech innovation solutions that have already been developed by data innovators.
All right. So I think one of the things that we've really seen is crippling us as a country, not just in terms of like thinking about development programs as provided by private sector, but it's really around the fact that there's a lot of resources that go into programs seeking to develop young people in the name of empowering and developing entrepreneurs. But what we find is that this investment do not translate into the intended results. And what that does do is that it then creates a noise around the fact that there may be things that are happening, but those things don't really address what's needed. And what we've done as data innovators, we've developed a software. It's called Impact Board. It's really around helping our partners and people that are implementing programs to have data at their fingertips that helps them think about, what is the best program that they should be implementing, and how should they measure that program on an ongoing basis to know that they're on track to achieve what they said they would achieve. And at the end of the day, are they really achieving that? So we've made it accessible in such a way that, whatever data that can be, collected by the program and stored by the program, it makes them have access to that information at their fingertips so that they know what they're doing, but also to be empowered to make decisions and improve what they're doing on a daily basis. And for us, this is where I think we're seeing, data and digitization being critical for the development sector, is around how do we empower and tap and contribute to the agency that, passionate people on the ground, the practitioners, the people that are at the forefront that are seeking to address these issues. How do we empower them with data and feed their agents with insights around what they can do differently tomorrow in order to improve the chances of our young people gaining access to employment, starting ventures that are sustainable?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and sharing that with us. Of course, Ayanda Mtanyana there, who is the CEO of Data Innovators, talking to us about some of the opportunities available within that space.